welcome back to our channel. Today, we're taking a nostalgic ride back to 1971 to uncover the fascinating world of Columbo, a groundbreaking crime drama series that delighted audiences for decades with its suspenseful stories, unforgettable characters, and a detective unlike any other. The show follows Lieutenant Columbo, a seemingly humble yet brilliantly persistent Los Angeles homicide investigator, famous for his rumpled trench coat, ever-present cigar, and trademark catchphrase, "Just one more thing." Despite his unassuming demeanor, Columbo skillfully unravels the most cunning crimes, leaving overconfident suspects speechless. This series not only redefined the detective genre with its inverted mystery formula but also left an enduring mark on popular culture, proving that true genius often hides behind a modest facade. Stay tuned as we dive into 20 things you never knew about this iconic show. Early portrayals of the detective. Before Peter Falk became synonymous with the role, the character of Columbo appeared in earlier incarnations. Bert Freed first portrayed the detective in a 1960 episode of the Chevy Mystery Show, followed by Thomas Mitchell's stage performance in Prescription Murder a few years later. The play was adapted into a made-for-TV movie in 1968, marking Peter Falk's debut as Columbo. In this early portrayal, the character bore less resemblance to his later iconic image. Instead of the familiar rumpled look, Falk was more polished, sporting nicer suits, shorter hair, and heavier stage makeup. Now, let's delve deeper here. The play Prescription Murder was written by Richard Levinson and William Link, the same duo who later adapted the story into the TV movie, and eventually the entire series. Bert Freed's original portrayal was quite different from what we think of today, partly because the character hadn't yet been refined into that disheveled, seemingly absent-minded but laser-focused detective we know. Freed's Columbo was more of a standard, straightforward detective, intelligent, but not as overtly scatterbrained or ironically cunning. Thomas Mitchell, known for his roles in films like It's a Wonderful Life and Stagecoach, brought a theatrical quality to the stage version of Columbo in Prescription Murder. Mitchell was in his 70s at the time and had a long career on Broadway and in Hollywood. Audiences who saw Mitchell's performance might recall a more avuncular Columbo, someone with an air of wisdom and a slower pace, yet with that same hidden intelligence. Mitchell passed away in 1962, so he never got to see how big the character would become. By the time Peter Falk came on board for the 1968 TV movie, Prescription Murder, the detective still hadn't acquired all those signature quirks. The TV movie showcased a more refined, well-groomed Lieutenant Columbo. He wore a suit, kept his hair neat, and generally seemed more conventional. But if you watch closely, you can spot early hints of the eventually iconic behavior, the persistent questioning, the polite but relentless interrogation style, and a certain unspoken cunning that puts suspects on edge. It's fascinating to see how these incarnations served as stepping stones. Each actor and adaptation added new layers, shaping Columbo into the detective we'd come to adore. Indeed, many fans of the final TV series have gone back to watch Freed's or Mitchell's versions out of sheer curiosity, only to find a character that feels like a prototype, familiar yet not quite there. The evolution from Freed and Mitchell to Peter Falk is a testament to the power of character development and the intuitive understanding Peter Falk had for the role. The almost Columbo, Bing Crosby originally, creators Richard Levinson and William Link envisioned crooner Bing Crosby as their unassuming detective. The charismatic singer was captivated by the role but ultimately declined because it would interfere with his golf schedule. Looking back, it seems fortunate Crosby made this choice, as he passed away in 1977 while Columbo was still riding its wave of popularity. Bing Crosby was a huge star at the time, famous for his smooth voice and relaxed persona. He had a friendly, easygoing charm that might have worked in a comedic or light detective context. But there's no telling whether Crosby could have embodied the darker, more psychologically nuanced side of Columbo. While Crosby certainly had acting experience, he won an Oscar for Going My Way. The comedic timing and almost sly style that Falk delivered might have been very different under Crosby's watch. It's an intriguing what-if scenario. Would viewers have embraced a singing, possibly crooning detective? Or would the show have taken on a completely different tone? Moreover, had Crosby accepted, the lifespan of the series might have been cut short by his passing in 1977. By that time, Columbo had become a cultural juggernaut. The show was on NBC, part of the NBC Mystery Movie rotation, and fans were tuning in to watch Columbo go toe-to-toe with cunning murderers every month. It's possible we never would have seen the same longevity with Crosby in the role. Other potential casting choices: character actor Lee Cobb was also in the running to play Columbo. However, Peter Falk's agent managed to secure him a copy of the Columbo script. After reading it, Falk contacted co-creator William Link with an enthusiastic declaration that he wanted to play the detective. Cobb was an actor known for his strong presence and powerful performances, e.g., his roles in On the Waterfront and 12 Angry Men. While he certainly would have brought gravitas to the part, one wonders if his more forceful style might have overshadowed Columbo's trademark subtlety. The tension of Columbo episodes often arises from that mismatch between his mild manner and the suspect's arrogance. Cobb might have offered a gruffer, more intimidating vibe. Perhaps that could have worked, but it certainly would not have been the same unassuming detective we came to love. Interestingly, Columbo's "just one more thing" approach might have felt more menacing if played by a more intense actor. Falk's gentle doggedness lulled the criminals into complacency. Cobb, in contrast, might have spurred immediate alarm with his imposing presence. In any case, we can be grateful for Falk's agent's quick thinking, because we got the perfect fit in Peter Falk. Peter Falk's unique appeal. Link and Levinson, familiar with Falk from their New York days, recognized his special charm. Though he didn't match the original vision of Lieutenant Columbo, his everyman quality resonated with both male and female audiences. Surprisingly, Falk was seen as sexy by many women, while men liked him because he was a humble, blue-collar underdog who outsmarted wealthy criminals. This is one of those underrated aspects of Columbo: the character was relatable. While certain detectives or crime fighters come off as superheroic or infallible, Columbo was human. He made mistakes, lost track of his notes, and often seemed out of place in the upscale settings where his suspects lived. Yet that very humanness endeared him to viewers. In an era when TV was often about polished stars and glamorous sets, Columbo's drab raincoat and second-hand car set him apart. The fact that some audience members found him sexy speaks volumes about Falk's performance. It wasn't about traditional good looks or flashy style. It was about confidence and competence wrapped in humility. Columbo took on the powerful, the arrogant, and the wealthy, and he always outsmarted them. That confidence, combined with a gentle approach, gave the character an unexpected magnetism that people responded to. Moreover, Falk himself had an underdog story, losing an eye to cancer as a child, which we'll explore more below, and being initially told by some in Hollywood that he'd never become a star. Overcoming adversity adds to the allure. Audiences often gravitate to a star who's had to break down barriers. Real-life parallels to Columbo. Peter Falk's real-life persona shared striking similarities with his iconic character. Known for his disheveled appearance and forgetfulness, he was also a man of contrasts. Despite his unassuming exterior, Falk possessed a sharp intellect. He held a master's degree in public administration and worked as an efficiency expert for the Connecticut state government. Having lost an eye to cancer as a child, he was often underestimated. In fact, a Hollywood executive once dismissed him by saying, "For the same price, I can get an actor with 2 eyes." Imagine that happening today. It's almost poetic how Falk's personal life mirrored Columbo's narrative in so many ways, particularly in being underestimated. From the outside, you might not guess a man with a glass eye and a slightly rumpled presence was a Renaissance figure, holding advanced degrees and excelling in roles that demanded nuance. But Falk was exactly that. He brought all of those life experiences to the character, channeling them into Columbo's ability to appear harmless while secretly taking in every crucial detail. Additionally, Falk's job as an efficiency expert in Connecticut might have shaped his methodical approach to the role. Columbo, after all, is an efficiency expert in his own right, just one who operates in a more ramshackle style. Every question he asks, every seemingly offhand remark, is a carefully placed step toward cornering the murderer. Falk's behind-the-scenes intellect helped him deliver a layered performance that was as believable as it was entertaining. The iconic wardrobe Falk didn't like the initial wardrobe choices for Lieutenant Columbo. Seeking a more authentic look, he raided his own closet and selected a worn-out raincoat he'd purchased years earlier. He also requested altering a blue suit into a brown one. These unassuming pieces became synonymous with the character and contributed significantly to his iconic image. If you look at other detective shows of the era, you'll often see protagonists in crisp suits, tailored jackets, and polished shoes. Columbo's entire look was the antithesis of that. Falk's personal raincoat was a little shabby and wrinkled, immediately setting him apart from the clean-cut approach typical of law enforcement on TV. Over time, that coat became almost as recognizable as Columbo himself, a visual shorthand for the detective who's not quite put together. What's more, the color palette, browns, beiges, off-whites, perfectly reflected Columbo's personality. It was unobtrusive, fading into the background so that the suspects never saw him coming until it was too late. Even the worn edges of the coat suggested a detective who spent more time on the street doing real investigative work than worrying about dry cleaning. It's a testament to how costume choices can become crucial to characterization. Steven Spielberg's early involvement. Interestingly, Steven Spielberg directed the first aired episode of the series, Murder by the Book. Falk was initially reluctant to work with a then-unknown 24-year-old Spielberg, but after meeting him and seeing his television work, Falk agreed. During filming, Falk was amazed by Spielberg's innovative techniques and told producers, "This guy is too good for Columbo." This anecdote is legendary among Spielberg fans. Before Jaws, 1975, before Close Encounters of the Third Kind, 1977, before E.T., 1982, Spielberg was a budding director cutting his teeth on TV. The fact that he landed the job of directing a Columbo episode was a big break. And the episode, Murder by the Book, is often cited as one of the best in the entire series. It's visually inventive in ways many TV shows of that era weren't, using lighting, camera angles, and a cinematic flair that set it apart. Spielberg's early involvement also shows how Columbo acted as a creative incubator. Several young talents got opportunities to direct episodes, bringing new energy and ideas. That synergy helped keep the show fresh, even as it followed a largely consistent formula. And of course, Spielberg's subsequent rise to become one of the greatest directors in Hollywood history only adds to the lore. Jack Cassidy as the recurring killer. Jack Cassidy, who played the murderer in Murder by the Book, went on to appear as the killer in 2 more Columbo episodes, Publish or Perish, Season 3, and Now You See Him, Season 5. Staying with Murder by the Book, it features the killing of a mystery writer. The novel often referenced in that episode, Mrs. Melville, shares the same title as Columbo's 1968 pilot movie, Prescription Murder. Jack Cassidy's performances in Columbo are fan favorites. He brought a suave, slightly theatrical edge to his characters, making for an excellent foil to the rumpled detective. Cassidy was the kind of murderer viewers loved to hate, charming, a bit arrogant, and never believing Columbo was a match for him. Over the course of his appearances, he provided some of the most memorable villain portrayals in the show's history. It's also interesting that Murder by the Book focuses on the killing of a mystery writer. The meta aspect, someone who writes murders meeting their own end, played perfectly into Columbo's brand of self-awareness. The reference to Mrs. Melville is a nod to the show's origins in Prescription Murder, linking the pilot to the earliest episodes of the full series. This layering of references is something Columbo fans love. There's always a little Easter egg or callback to reward loyal viewers. Introducing the canine sidekick. When Columbo was renewed for a second season, NBC executives insisted on adding a sidekick for the lieutenant. Despite their reservations, the creators collaborated with writer Steven Bochco to introduce a new character. Instead of a human partner, they opted for a canine companion. Initially, Falk worried that between the raincoat, cigar, and Peugeot car, his character already had enough gimmicks. But he warmed to the idea after meeting a Basset Hound from the pound, whose laid-back demeanor perfectly complemented Columbo's character. This dog, often referred to simply as Dog, became a silent but significant presence on the show. The Basset Hound's sleepy expressions and droopy ears mirrored Columbo's unhurried style. Typically, the dog offered occasional comic relief, sleeping in the car, refusing to follow commands, or otherwise ignoring Columbo's pleas. It was a gentle reflection of Columbo's own approach to crime-solving, never rushed, never too aggressive, but somehow always effective. The choice to add a canine companion instead of a human partner was brilliant. A human partner might have changed the show's dynamic dramatically, injecting dialogue that could overshadow Columbo's solitary style. By contrast, Dog gave viewers a glimpse of Columbo's personal life, his capacity for affection, his sense of humor, without altering the fundamental one-on-one dance between detective and suspect. Falk's marriage to Shera Danese. Peter Falk met his future wife, Shera Danese, on the set of his 1976 film Mikey and Nicky, which was being filmed in her hometown of Philadelphia. The aspiring actress landed a role as an extra, and the couple married in 1977. Danese subsequently appeared in multiple Columbo episodes. Initially cast in small supporting parts, her roles grew more prominent over time. She once auditioned for the lead female role in the 1991 episode, Columbo and the Murder of a Rock Star, but Falk vetoed the idea due to a scene requiring her to be in bed with a much younger man. Instead, she was cast as a co-conspirator and got to showcase her singing talent by performing the murdered star's hit song. Danese's recurring presence on Columbo added an extra layer of behind-the-scenes intrigue. Viewers who recognized her real-life connection to Falk found it delightful to see her pop up, sometimes as a pivotal guest star, other times in more cameo-like appearances. Their real-life chemistry sometimes peeked through, adding a subtle warmth to her scenes. It's also telling that Falk vetoed her potential role in Columbo and the Murder of a Rock Star. It underscores how protective he was, both of his wife and possibly of the show's dynamic. Instead of having Shera Danese play a role that might seem incongruous or potentially overshadow certain story elements, he guided her toward a different part. While that might sound controlling from one perspective, it likely stemmed from Falk's keen sense of how Columbo scripts worked, and perhaps a bit of spousal protectiveness. Regardless, Danese's involvement gave Columbo a personal touch that fans still appreciate. The ambiguity of Columbo's family life. The Columbo character's family life remains somewhat ambiguous. There are moments when he mentions a wife and children. For example, in the episode Any Old Port in a Storm, he says, "If I can get a babysitter, I'll bring my wife along." However, other episodes contradict this, suggesting the couple never had children. This ambiguity led to countless fan theories. Some fans speculate that Columbo exaggerates or invents details about his wife and possible children to throw off suspects, or simply to make conversation. Others believe he truly does have a family, but the show never focuses on them because Columbo's job is all-consuming. The series also introduced a spin-off, Mrs. Columbo, which we'll discuss soon, yet that show also left many details in question about the detective's personal life. One reason for the lack of clarity might simply be that the creators wanted to keep the focus on the mysteries. The show wasn't about Columbo's domestic dramas, it was about how he teased out a suspect's guilt. By keeping his home life shadowy, the viewer could project onto him, seeing him as either a family man or a solitary detective, depending on their own interpretation. The Philip Columbo hoax. Suspecting that others were using his meticulously researched trivia without giving him credit, trivia book writer Fred Worth devised a clever test. He invented the fact that Lieutenant Columbo's first name was Philip and published it in one of his books. When the board game Trivial Pursuit listed Philip as Columbo's first name, Worth filed a $300 million lawsuit for copyright infringement. Though Trivial Pursuit admitted using Worth's book, the court ruled in favor of the game's creators. Still, the Philip Columbo misinformation persisted in popular culture for years afterward. This hoax is a classic example in the world of Mountweasel or Trap Streets, where authors deliberately insert false information to catch plagiarists. Many fans were confused for years about whether Columbo's first name was indeed Philip. The show itself never gave an official first name, which left that vacuum open for rumors to take hold. It's a testament to how iconic Columbo had become that even one small piece of misinformation could spread so widely. In pop culture, references to Philip Columbo still sometimes pop up, even though we now know definitively that it's incorrect. The irony is that the detective, who solves mysteries through meticulous observation, would probably chuckle at the notion that fans were duped by a bit of deliberate misinformation in a trivia book. The discovery of Columbo's first name, Frank, with the advent of syndicated reruns, DVDs, and high-definition television, eagle-eyed viewers were able to pause a scene from the first season episode, Dead Weight. Closer inspection of Lieutenant Columbo's badge revealed a surprising detail: his first name is Frank. The "How Catch Him" formula Columbo flipped the traditional mystery formula on its head. Instead of a classic whodunit, the series presented a "How Catch Him," where the audience knew the culprit from the start. This demanded exceptional storytelling from the writers. In typical mystery shows, the tension comes from trying to figure out who committed the crime. But in Columbo, the tension arises from watching the detective dismantle the suspect's alibi, piece by piece. Audiences were fascinated by Columbo's methodical approach, how he'd notice small inconsistencies, how he'd pretend to be clueless just so the murderer would slip up. This approach placed a heavier burden on the writers. They had to craft a puzzle where the viewers already had the solution but were still enthralled by the detective's journey. They had to make the culprit's downfall both inevitable and surprising. Part of the magic was in Columbo's psychological manipulation of his suspects. He'd flatter them, share stories, feign ignorance, and then, when they least expected it, reveal he had the goods on them. This slow-burn style was revolutionary for TV at the time and remains compelling even in modern binge-watching sessions. Inspiration from the Yellow Pages. Inspiration often struck in unexpected ways. While searching for a new profession for a Columbo murderer, the writers flipped through the Yellow Pages and stumbled upon listings for professional magicians. This led to one of Peter Falk's personal favorite episodes, Now You See Him, featuring Jack Cassidy as a former Nazi officer turned illusionist. This anecdote highlights how Columbo's writers approached the show's premise. They needed fresh angles for each episode, new crimes, new motives, and new types of murderers. By casting a wide net, sometimes literally leafing through directories or scanning newspaper ads, they found real-world professions that could make for unusual or compelling killers. The idea of a magician committing murder added a wonderful thematic twist: illusions, misdirection, and secrecy. All these elements dovetailed with Columbo's brand of detective work. The story also dove into deeper issues, like the character's hidden past as a Nazi officer, giving the plot greater resonance. This creativity in choosing villains helped keep Columbo from feeling formulaic, even though the structure of each episode was more or less consistent. The controversial spin-off, Mrs. Columbo. A spin-off series called Mrs. Columbo was created as a network-driven venture, though it met with resistance from the original show's creators. The series tried to capitalize on Columbo's popularity by introducing his wife, unseen in the original show, and giving her a full series of her own. From the outset, there was a problem. Part of Columbo's mystique was the fact that viewers never saw his wife. She was mentioned countless times but always remained off-screen. Fans had built up their own visions of who Mrs. Columbo was, how she looked, how she acted, how she and the lieutenant interacted at home. By making her the protagonist of a spin-off, the show inevitably shattered those illusions. Moreover, the creators, Levinson and Link, voiced displeasure about the spin-off, stating it went against the spirit of Columbo. Their reluctance, combined with lukewarm audience reception, led to a relatively short-lived run. Over time, Mrs. Columbo was renamed Kate Loves a Mystery, with less direct reference to the original show. Even then, it never captured the charm or success of Columbo. To this day, the spin-off remains a curious footnote, a cautionary tale about how trying to expand a beloved property can sometimes backfire if it goes against the core appeal of the original. The Dean Martin Celebrity Roast appearance. Peter Falk appeared in character as Columbo at the Dean Martin Celebrity Roast of Frank Sinatra in 1978. During this cameo, he accidentally revealed her name to be Rose, the only time Columbo's wife was actually named. This incident is fascinating because it's not even in the canonical context of the show itself. Rather, it was a roast, a comedic event. Falk, staying in character, bantered with Sinatra, rummaging around for evidence, and at one point mentioned Rose. While it might not hold the same weight as an official episode, fans seized on the moment as a rare instance of clarity about Mrs. Columbo. Ironically, the name, Rose, further muddied the waters for fans. Was this an off-the-cuff improvisation by Falk? Was it a slip, or was it planned as part of the comedic routine? In any case, it sparked endless debate among Columbo enthusiasts, many of whom believe that if the detective's wife truly had a name, Rose was it. Others say that because it happened outside the show, it shouldn't be considered canonical. And so, the mystery of Mrs. Columbo continued. Flexible scheduling for Peter Falk. To accommodate Falk's desire to pursue film roles, the network planned a monthly broadcast schedule for Columbo. Instead of airing weekly, it became part of the NBC mystery movie rotation, giving Falk greater flexibility for his acting career. This scheduling quirk was a stroke of brilliance. At a time when most TV shows aired weekly, Columbo appeared less frequently, making each new episode something of an event. Fans would eagerly await the next Columbo night, cherishing the chance to see their favorite detective in action. Meanwhile, Peter Falk could still explore film opportunities, preventing him from becoming typecast or locked into a grueling TV production cycle. The NBC mystery movie format grouped Columbo with other detective shows like McCloud and Macmillan and Wife. Each series would air in a rotating fashion. This approach kept viewers engaged across multiple detective narratives and gave them a sense of variety while still hooking them with the promise of seeing Columbo again soon. The arrangement ultimately benefited everyone, Falk, the writers, and the audience, who savored each new Columbo case all the more. Critical and award success. Despite a relatively late start to his acting career, Peter Falk earned widespread acclaim. His portrayal of Lieutenant Columbo won him a Golden Globe for Best Actor in a Television Series, Drama, in 1973, as well as 4 Primetime Emmy Awards. Critical recognition solidified Falk's status as a heavyweight in television acting. By the time he started playing Columbo regularly in the early 1970s, Falk was already in his mid-40s. Many actors achieve stardom younger, but Falk's breakout in this role was a testament to talent triumphing over Hollywood norms. His nuanced portrayal, conveying intelligence, humor, empathy, and a touch of mischief, earned him accolades and fan devotion alike. The Golden Globe and Emmy wins also underscored the show's quality. Often, genre shows, especially detective series, can struggle to gain recognition from awards bodies. Yet Columbo transcended its genre, thanks in no small part to Falk's stellar performance. Even as new TV trends emerged, Columbo remained a beloved staple, and Falk continued to earn nominations throughout the series' long run. Columbo's popularity abroad, a statue, and Falk's final years. Columbo enjoyed immense popularity in Romania. In 1974, when the season's episodes ended, public outcry reached a fever pitch. Romanians believed their government was withholding Columbo episodes due to strict quotas on American TV broadcasts. Peter Falk recounted this in his autobiography Just One More Thing, 2006, and during a David Letterman appearance. The U.S. State Department eventually arranged for Falk to record a Romanian speech, phonetically, assuring fans the show would return. A statue of Peter Falk's Lieutenant Columbo, accompanied by his iconic canine companion, stands on Falk Mixa Street in Budapest, Hungary. Interestingly, Falk had Hungarian ancestry through his maternal grandfather. Tragically, Peter Falk was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in 2008. His condition deteriorated rapidly, ultimately erasing his memories of Columbo. He passed away in 2011. And there you have it, folks, our deep dive into Columbo, 1971. 20 Things You Never Knew. We hope these behind-the-scenes stories and surprising facts have given you a whole new appreciation for this beloved detective series. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more nostalgic throwbacks and fascinating film and TV insights. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.